My enemies and your enemies. Now, this is a very particular message that God just wants me to speak in the spirit to you certain people. Notice I say certain, but this stuff is real. My enemies and your enemies. Man, this stuff is deep because, and God is leading me to say this, but a lot of you people, for some reason, and certain individuals, like, I guess because they think that, things are going well, or it doesn't seem as if like nothing's really taking place and all that stuff. I guess I don't know what the case is with this, but yeah, I mean, my enemies and your enemies. Once again, I do truly have enemies. Believe it or not, I do have enemies. But see, the thing about this stuff is God is ahead of these enemies, and he's ahead of me too. And he's ahead of a lot of you individuals who may hear this and stuff like that, and beings who may hear this and stuff like that. But my enemies, focusing on that, concerning that in this matter. Yeah, my enemies are many people and many individuals, and including family members too, certain family members, I gotta say. Yeah, they are my enemies. And this stuff is not a game, because you gotta realize that God sees all this stuff from heaven. And you guys think that heaven is so far, but it's not, is what I'm trying to tell you people. It's not. It's very much more accessible than you know. And yeah, my enemies, getting into that, God sees my enemies, and I see certain enemies as well, for sure. Of course I do. Of course I do. Now, I don't see everything that God sees. No, I don't, because I'm not him. I'm not him, is what you got to understand. I'm not him. But I do see a lot of my enemies, and God allows me to see these enemies too. And certain people I already knew were my enemy, is what you got to realize too. But once again, I'm not the God of Israel or anything like that. No, I'm not. I'm trying to just emphasize that too, because God wants me to emphasize these things, and he wants me to say it the exact way that I'm saying it too. I'm not no perfect person and all that stuff. I've said many things and different things. Everything I've ever really said is true and accurate, and it's by his spirit, but it doesn't mean that like I'm some no, I'm not no perfect person. And, I don't claim to be, and not trying to be either. What I am is I'm truly heaven sent, and I'm also a pure soul and a pure hearted person. That's what I am, and much, much more. But anyhow, too, yeah, man, I mean, my enemies are everywhere, and they are literally everywhere. And some are a lot more, they're more like in God's view than others. I'll just leave it at that. But my enemies, this could be male or female too. And honestly, my enemies, they are in for it, believe it or not, because not only is God aware of them, but God is doing something with them that they don't even know. And yeah, of course, I know certain matters concerning this, but once again, I'm not the God of Israel. So I do not know everything that he knows. No, I don't. But what I can tell you is that I do know a lot of my enemies, and I know what God is doing concerning my enemies. And, just focusing on this in this particular matter. Yeah, my enemies are pretty much done, if I'm being real with you, because they're done with God. They're done. They're done for when it comes to God. And yeah, the God of Israel is going to destroy my enemies, and he's going to destroy many other individuals as well. But my enemies, and a lot of you people don't think you have enemies. And that's what God is leading me to say, but you do. And that's what I'm about to get into as well. But yeah, my enemies, yeah, they're done. They're done. And the God of Israel has serious judgment on them, and not only judgment, but he is going to destroy them. I'm just going to be very real with you. He's going to destroy my enemies, And, my enemies and all this stuff, they may think that they're going to outsmart God, but it's not going to happen. It's truly not. It's truly not. My enemies, these people are a part of what God is doing on a serious level, if I'm being real with you. Because you got to understand that I truly belong to the kingdom of heaven. That's what you got to understand too. And, I don't have to get too in depth with that, because I'm very limited on what I can say concerning this matter. But my enemies they're done. They're done, if I'm being real with you. And my enemies, some of these people are like Christian folks. And once again, like I mentioned earlier, like family, certain family members are my enemies. You know, certain family members that I'm not as familiar with are my enemies. And I honestly already know these things, but the God of Israel knows it on a more intense level than I do. I'm just gonna leave it at that as well too. But yeah, my enemies, yeah, they're done. They're done. They're done. It doesn't matter what they think. They're done. They're done when it comes to God, is what I'm saying. They're done. And yeah, and me getting into your enemies as well. Because some of you people, and this, when I say your enemies, this only goes to certain people who God has interest in and who God is more or less just truly has interest in. That's really all this is going to. Now, these other people who have enemies, who are just, you know, worldly, and the people who reject God and all that stuff, yeah, they just, I don't have much to say about that. But getting back to the people who have enemies that are, you know, of God and love God and stuff like that, and who God has interest in, and also the people who have interest in him, stuff like that. Your enemies. Yeah, your enemies are more or less done too. But also, like, some of your enemies, like, God is like, he's doing something through you. And depending on you, it's going to determine what happens to some of your enemies, if I'm being real. Because this stuff is not a game. I'm not one of those people who give false hope and all that funny stuff. No, because I know what God is, seriously, how he views that stuff, and how he views me, and how he views certain things of this world. And I'm not one of those people, no, to tell you, oh, you know, you can just, you know, linger around and do all this. No, enemies are real. And honestly, yeah, your enemies, God is doing a lot of stuff, and it's concerning you. And depending on what you do, it's going to determine what God is doing with your enemies. And that's all I can really say with that. There's more in depth with that too. But overall, the God of Israel is in control of this stuff. And he's aware of enemies and all that stuff, and people's enemies. And once again, he is aware of my enemies. God is leading me to say that again, once again. But anyhow, yeah, your enemies. Yeah, and this goes for the people who God truly has interest in, and who love God, the people who love God, and individuals who have interest in him. That's all this is for. Them other people who have enemies, I don't have nothing to say about that. And this is just Mellow speaking. But yeah, your enemies, yeah, it's going to determine what you do. That determines what happens with your enemies and concerning them. And yeah, your heart posture matters to God. I'll just leave it at that too. Your heart posture towards your enemies matters. He's leading me to say that, you know. And, and also too, God is leading me to say, the people who don't believe they have enemies, they're going to find out the hard way, because they do. You know, it doesn't matter who you are hearing this. You have enemies, and God is dealing with enemies and your enemies differently from the way he's dealing with my enemies and the way he's dealing with other individuals' enemies. But you do have enemies, and this stuff is not a game, you know. And I'm not one of those prosperity type people and all that stuff. No, I really am picked out by God, and God did pick me for his will. So this stuff gets intense, and this stuff is real. And yes, also God is wanting me to say this too, but my angels, my personal angels, are aware of my enemies as well. My angels. So yeah, that's why it's so much more deeper than you know. But yeah, and this is not for everybody. No, this does not concern you other people who have enemies, and even those other people I mentioned who have enemies. This is not going for you. This is just far as for me. But God wants me to share it, you know, humbly speaking. But yeah, I mean, this stuff gets deep, and determining what you do and how you view these people will determine what God does with your enemies. And I'm just being very real, because if you seek revenge on certain people, you know, God is going to get revenge on you. That's what you got to realize about this stuff when it comes to enemies and stuff like that. Because a lot of people think they could just handle their enemies and all that stuff, and you can't. Because the thing is, when you do wickedness and harm, you're going to reap what you sow. That's what you got to realize too. You're going to reap what you sow. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think. No, you will reap what you sow. And I'm not saying do nothing or do something either. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is you better go to God about this stuff. That is what I am saying. With all that being said, yeah, I'm not here to appeal to people's emotions and all that stuff. I'm here to do the will of God, and and overall just you know, be a part of heaven. heaven's agenda, and I am a part of heaven and all that stuff. But with all that being said, yeah, you do have enemies, and God is aware of this stuff. So yeah, I already gave to you the different matters of this. And well, with all that being said, yeah, I'm out.